Hey, how's it going? So I'm working on picking songs for the album, and this sounds maybe like a boring thing to always be going on about, but this is a really important part of the album making process. So if you don't know, which you probably don't, I started off with over 40 songs for this new album that were fully written and that I had demoed at home. And then I came into this studio and demoed about half of those, 22, properly with overdubs and guitars and some vocals and some other instruments. And then that got cut down to about 14, which I've been rehearsing with the band. And now it's coming down to picking songs for the album. And there's lots of variables in this, like I've talked about, but one of them is also thinking about whether the album is going to be pressed onto vinyl, because with vinyl you can only press about 43 minutes, so the album's either going to be 42 minutes or less, or it's not, and it's not going to go into that format, and it's just going to be a bunch of songs that I've put together, which can really go for any length of time. It can go for 55 hours. But here I want to explain what I've been doing with this I don't know, kind of weird mind map of words. So I actually created this about 2 years ago when I started this project, and the working title for the album is The Attic. And really I just started brainstorming lots of words. What do I want the album to be? So I want it to be obviously genius, atmospheric. I want great musicianship. I want it to be refined. I want to break some new ground. I want it to be lasting, deeply affecting, all this stuff. And when I would be practicing the songs, I would actually stand in front of this and, focus in on one word as I'm performing the song to see how it changes the song. And it actually amazingly changes how I perform the songs quite a bit. So I've decided to come back to this to work out how to pick the songs for this album. And what I'm finding is pretty interesting. It really, for me, to pick the songs for this album is coming back to real basics. Some of the stuff I mentioned yesterday. What do I really want? And what is the purpose of the album? What's the purpose of making music? And recently when I was in Iceland, I had a number of huge epiphanies, but I was thinking about my purpose as a human. And what it really came down to for me, which is something you'll probably hear me talk about over and over, which is this idea of self-actualization and self-expression. So I kind of see these as two sides of the same coin. Self-actualization to me means finding out who I am as a person, deeply as a person, what interests me, what my thoughts are, what my beliefs are, how I want to live my life, what is the best way of living. And they're pretty deep questions, and it's something that has always fascinated me. So that's one side of the coin, self-actualization, finding out who I am and then bringing that into the world. And then that's the other side of the coin, is bringing it into the world through self-expression. So it's one thing to know who you are and how you want to live. It's a very different thing to actually be that in the world. So that's the actualization part, really living from a place of whatever it is, love, compassion, creativity, inspiration. There are kind of a few of my keywords, but I noticed as I was going through this, there's lots of stuff that has nothing to do with that. So, I've got here sellable. I want to be able to sell this thing. Hooks, musical hooks, a sense of wonder. So these are just kind of nice guideposts. But really, as I've gone through this, what I'm working out is it comes back to self-actualization and self-expression. So I started to try and trace that back. So here I've got like, okay, the album, it must connect with people. That means I need to connect with myself. I want to do that authentically and honestly and meaningfully, which means if I want to do that authentically, I need to be vulnerable. I need to open up emotionally in the performance of the songs, which moves to, you know, making me be more emotive in the moment of performing the songs, which ties in with musicianship and flawless execution of those ideas, you know, of those creative ideas. And really that's almost all I needed to be focusing on, which is this internal part of authentically expressing who I am inside, and then doing that flawlessly, which is pretty hard to do in a studio, but that just brings it back to practice. So so now that I've sort of traced this back, I'm going to go about going through all of the songs. As you can hear, I'm kind of playing the songs in the background here. I'm going to go through all the songs and make sure these things are in place, that I'm feeling authentically and honestly connected to these songs, that I feel like I can emotionally connect to the songs, that in some way I'm being vulnerable, that I'm not just singing about something that's totally disconnected from me and from other people, like just singing about Weet-Bix boxes or something like that. To me, it's really important that the songs are emotive, that I go through an emotional process in writing and performing them, and the listener goes through an emotional process when they're hearing it. It triggers memories, feelings, situations, and that it moves people. For me, I'm interested in music that moves me emotionally, and I think that's essentially what music does for people. Yeah, and so that's kind of it. I just wanted to share this weird schizophrenic thing that I've been working with for a while, and I'm glad I created this back when I started making this album project, so that I can come back to it at this point and really refine what it is that this album's going to be all about. So I have no idea if that's interesting at all. Doesn't really matter. But I hope you did find that interesting. If you're a songwriter putting an album together, or you're an artist of any kind, or a human being trying to work out what's going on with your life, I really find this helpful. I've got lots of big sheets of paper up on my wall at home to get all these things out of my head and just kind of start connecting things up and refining them and getting clarity. So I suggest you do that with everything that you're doing in your life, including recipes, planning holidays, whatever. Yeah, so if you found this interesting, do all the usual things. Subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. Leave me a comment below if you've got anything to add to this. If you would like me to make videos on anything else in particular, you want me to go deeper onto something, let me know. Give this video a thumbs up or a like, and share it with anyone you think it would be valuable to share with. And that's about it. If you check out the description below, there's links to some free music that you can get of mine, some samples and some tasty tracks. There's also a link to find out more about how to be a more creative artist, creative human being. So check out those links, see if any of that grabs you, and I will be seeing you soon. Thanks, bye.